New York didn't forget Tommy Egan. It remembers the blood, the deals, the fear and the name that once shook every block. Now, with Power Legacy beginning, Tommy isn't just stepping back into the city. He's stepping back into unfinished business. And this time, New York may not survive the return the same way it did before. New York is not just a place on the map for Tommy Egan. It is the reason he became who he is. Before Chicago, before exile, before the body count followed, his name everywhere there was New York. These streets raised him, trained him, and hardened him long before he ever thought about leaving. Tommy didn't learn power in books or meetings. He learned it in alleys, back rooms, and dirty apartments where one mistake could get you killed. New York was his first teacher, and it taught him fast. Growing up in Queens, Tommy was surrounded by chaos, crime, and survival. His world was never clean or simple. From a young age, he understood that trust was rare and loyalty came at a price. This environment shaped his mindset, while others dreamed of escape. Tommy learned how to rule what was in front of him. Every move he made came from instinct, anger, and the need to prove himself. The city rewarded that kind of thinking, but it also punished weakness without mercy. Tommy's connection to New York is deeply personal. This is where his reputation was built. People didn't just know his name, they feared it. He wasn't just muscle. He was unpredictable. One moment calm, the next explosive. That made him dangerous. New York remembers men like that, even years later. Whispers of Tommy Egan still carry weight because the scars he left behind never healed properly. Some people survived him, others didn't, and the ones who did never forgot. What makes Tommy's return so powerful in Power Legacy is that the city has changed, but its memory hasn't. New York is bigger now, faster, and more hidden. But underneath the surface, the same rules still apply. Respect matters, fear matters, and history matters most of all. Tommy knows every corner of this world because he helped shape it. He understands how the streets think, how power moves quietly, and how old grudges wait patiently for the right moment to explode. This is why Tommy coming back isn't just another expansion. It's a collision between past and present. The man he was and the man he's become are meeting in the same place. Chicago taught him control, loss taught him patience, but New York reminds him of who he truly is at his core. A survivor who doesn't back down, a fighter who doesn't forget, and a man who believes that if a city once belonged to him, it can belong to him again. Power Legacy Season 1 begins by reopening this chapter for a reason, because before Tommy can move forward, he has to face the city that made him, and New York isn't welcoming him back, it's testing whether he still deserves the crown. Tommy Egan's connection to New York goes deeper than business or territory. It runs through his blood, his family, and the life he was born into. This city didn't just shape his career, it shaped his soul. Tommy didn't grow up with safety or comfort. His home life was broken, unstable, and filled with tension. From the very beginning, survival was normal for him. Love came mixed with lies, and loyalty often came with pain. This environment created the kind of man who learns to strike first and trust last. At the center of Tommy's early life was his mother, Kate Egan. She wasn't just a background figure, she was a major influence on who Tommy became. Kate loved Tommy in her own way, but her choices also exposed him to danger early on. Crime was never hidden from him. Violence wasn't shocking. It was normal. Watching adults lie, manipulate, and survive through illegal means taught Tommy that rules were flexible and morality depended on who had power. New York was the perfect place for that lesson. Tommy didn't grow up dreaming of becoming a criminal king. He grew into it because the streets gave him no other option. School didn't protect him. Authority didn't guide him. The streets filled that gap. They offered respect in exchange for fear and loyalty in exchange for violence. For a young Tommy, this made sense. In New York, strength meant survival, weakness meant being used or erased. He learned quickly which one he wanted to be. This is also where Tommy learned the value of family beyond blood. Crews became brothers. partners became lifelines. And one relationship, more than any other, defined his rise. His bond with Ghost. Together, they became more than kids from broken homes. They became a force. But while Ghost dreamed of control and clean exits, Tommy stayed loyal to the raw truth of the streets. New York fed that part of him. It rewarded his honesty, even when it was brutal. Years later, those roots still matter. People connected to Tommy's past are still alive in New York. Some are older, quieter, and more careful. Others are bitter, angry, and waiting. Bloodlines don't disappear just because time passes. They wait. Old favors remain unpaid. Old mistakes remain unforgiven. Tommy knows this better than anyone. Every block carries a memory. Every name he hears could be tied to a past deal or a past betrayal. In Power Legacy Season 1, Tommy's return to New York is dangerous because of these roots. He isn't walking into unknown territory. He's walking into a place that remembers his worst moments and his strongest ones. The city knows how far he's willing to go. And more importantly, it knows where he came from. Blood, family, and history are not weaknesses for Tommy, they are fuel. But in New York, fuel can start a fire just as fast as it can build an empire. Tommy's bloodline ties him to this city in ways he can't escape. No matter how much he changes, New York will always see the boy it raised into a killer. And now, as Power Legacy unfolds, the city is watching closely to see if that same blood still carries the power to rule or if it will finally be the reason he falls. New York may look different on the surface, but beneath it all, the same old connections are still breathing. Tommy Egan understands this better than anyone. In this city, people don't disappear, they go quiet. Old crews don't vanish, they wait. And old debts don't expire, they collect interest. When Tommy steps back into New York, he isn't walking into a clean slate. He's stepping into a web he helped create years ago, back in the day. Tommy wasn't just a partner to Ghost. He was the enforcer everyone feared. His name carried weight because he finished what others only threatened. That reputation built deep ties with street soldiers, suppliers, and middlemen who survived because Tommy stood between them and death. Some of those people climbed higher, others fell low, but many of them are still connected to the underground network that runs New York quietly. They may wear suits now, run small businesses, or hide behind clean lives, but they remember who helped them rise. These old connections are both an advantage and a danger. On one hand, Tommy can open doors that stay locked to outsiders. A single phone call, a familiar face, or even a shared memory can restart relationships that were never fully closed. In a city where trust is rare, history matters. People know. Tommy doesn't pretend. When he gives his word, it comes with risk, but also with reward. That kind of honesty still means something in the streets. But New York also remembers blood. Not everyone who crossed paths with Tommy survived with loyalty intact. Some lost brothers. Some lost money. Some lost power because Tommy chose another side. Those people never forgot. They've waited years for the chance to even the score. And now that Tommy is back, those quiet grudges have a face again. The city doesn't forgive. It waits. What makes Power Legacy Season 1 so dangerous for Tommy is that he can't tell friend from enemy at first glance. Smiles hide intentions. Old allies may now answer to new bosses. And some people who once needed Tommy may now see him as a threat. Power shifts fast in New York, and loyalty shifts even faster. Every reunion comes with risk. Every handshake could be a setup. Another problem is that Tommy's legend has grown bigger than the man himself. Stories about him have been told and retold, often exaggerated. To some, he's a monster. To others, he's a symbol of how power used to be. That reputation attracts attention, both good and bad. Young players want to test him. Old ones want to use him. And smart ones want him gone before he takes control again. These surviving connections are the backbone of Tommy's expansion, but they're also the reason it could collapse. One wrong trust, one old name spoken too loudly, and everything could fall apart. New York doesn't care how long you've been gone. It only cares if you can still survive. As Power Legacy moves forward, Tommy's past relationships become the battleground for his future. Every old connection forces him to face a simple truth. You can leave New York, but New York never leaves you. And when you return, it decides whether you still belong or whether it's time to erase you for good. Even with Ghost gone, his presence still controls parts of New York. James St. Patrick may be dead, but his shadow never left the city. Every smart operation, every quiet business front, and every hidden money path still carries his fingerprints. For Tommy Egan, this makes New York more complicated than ever. He isn't just returning to old streets, he's stepping into a legacy that was built beside him but never fully belonged to him. Ghost changed how power worked in New York. He proved that control didn't always need chaos. While others used fear, Ghost used planning. While others ruled loudly, he ruled from the shadows. That system didn't disappear when he did. Pieces of it survived. Some businesses are still active. Some contacts are still alive. And some people are still protecting. This creates a strange problem for Tommy. On one side, Ghost's old network gives him opportunity. Hidden routes, quiet income streams, and forgotten names can all be reactivated. These systems were built to last, and Tommy understands them. Better than most, he knows where the cracks are and where the secrets are buried. But on the other side, Ghost's legacy attracts attention. Everyone wants a piece of what Ghost left behind, and anyone who touches it becomes a target. There are people in New York who still blame Tommy for Ghost's death. Others believe Tommy failed to protect the empire. And some think he's the only one strong enough to take control of it again. That mix of anger, hope, and fear makes him dangerous just by existing. No matter what move he makes, it gets tied back to Ghost. Every deal becomes a reminder of the past. Every mistake becomes proof that the old days are gone. Power Legacy Season 1 shows how heavy this burden really is. Tommy isn't just fighting enemies, he's fighting memories. He remembers the trust he once shared with Ghost. He remembers the arguments, the betrayals, and the final separation. New York remembers it too. The city watched their rise and fall. And now it's watching to see what Tommy does with what's left. What makes this even harder is that the new generation doesn't respect history the same way younger players see Ghost as a story. Not a warning. They don't understand the cost of building that kind of empire. They want results fast, power now, and blood if necessary. Tommy stands between the old world and the new one. He carries Ghost's knowledge, but not his patience, and that balance is hard to hold. In the end, Ghost's shadow forces Tommy to make a choice. Either he uses the past as a tool, or he lets it trap him. New York doesn't care about feelings or loyalty, it only cares about who controls the game. And as Power Legacy unfolds, the city is pushing Tommy toward a truth he can't escape. To move forward, he may have to finally step out of Ghost's shadow, or risk being buried under it forever. New York is not the same city Tommy Egan left. Behind, the buildings are taller, the money moves faster, and the streets are quieter than before. But that silence is misleading. Power didn't disappear, it just learned how to hide better. In Power Legacy Season 1, Tommy walks into a city where crime no longer announces itself with noise. It moves through phones, offices, and clean-looking businesses. And this new system forces Tommy to rethink everything he knows. The old power structure is gone. Big names that once ruled the streets either died, vanished, or lost control. Their absence created empty space, and New York never leaves. Space unclaimed. New players stepped in smarter, calmer, and harder to read. These new leaders don't stand on corners or fight wars in public. They move through lawyers, shell companies, and silent partners. Violence still exists, but it's used carefully, like a last move instead of the first. For Tommy, this is dangerous territory. His strength has always been honesty and force. People knew where he stood. They knew what would happen if they crossed him, but in this new New York, enemies don't always show their faces. Smiles replace threats, contracts replace handshakes, and betrayal happens without warning. One wrong move can destroy everything without a single bullet being fired. Still, the old rules haven't fully disappeared. Respect still matters, fear still works, loyalty is still rare. Tommy understands these basics, and that's why he still has a chance. Beneath the clean surface, the city still responds to power the same way it always has. It just demands more control, more patience, more strategy. Tommy must learn when to strike and when to stay invisible. Another major change is how information travels. Secrets don't stay buried. Cameras watch everything. Phones track movement. One mistake can spread across the city in minutes. This makes Tommy's presence risky. His name carries history, and history attracts attention. Every move he makes is watched, judged, and reported. In this New York, reputation can be a weapon or a weakness. Power Legacy Season 1 shows Tommy adjusting to this reality step by step. He can't rely only on fear anymore. He needs alliances that make sense. He needs protection that doesn't come from bullets alone. And most importantly, he needs to understand who really runs the city now. Not everyone with power wants to be seen, and not everyone who looks small actually is. Yet no matter how modern the city becomes, one truth remains unchanged. New York respects strength. It respects those who survive long enough to adapt. Tommy may not fit perfectly into this new world, but he isn't weak either. He's learning, watching, and waiting. Because when Tommy Egan finally moves, he never moves halfway. This new New York may think it has outgrown men like Tommy, but history says otherwise. The city has a habit of underestimating survivors, and if Power Legacy teaches us anything, it's that old wolves don't forget how to hunt, they just learn new ways to win. Tommy Egan is not the same man he was when he last ruled New York. Time, loss, and survival changed him in ways the city doesn't fully understand yet. In Power Legacy Season 1, his expansion feels different because it comes from experience, not ego. Before, Tommy acted on instinct and emotion. Now, every move carries purpose. He still has anger in him, but it's controlled. And that makes him far more dangerous than before. Chicago was a hard lesson for Tommy. It stripped away the safety of familiar faces and forced him to build from nothing. He learned what happens when loyalty is thin and power is borrowed. Every betrayal sharpened his thinking. Every loss taught him patience. He saw what reckless moves cost and how long-term planning can save lives or end them quietly. This version of Tommy doesn't rush. He studies the board before making his play. Another key difference is that Tommy no longer wants chaos. In the past, chaos followed him everywhere. He used it as a weapon, sometimes without realizing it. Now he understands that chaos attracts attention, and attention brings enemies. His new goal is control, not noise. He wants systems that run without him being present. He wants power that lasts even when he steps away. This mindset is a major shift from the man New York remembers. Tommy also understands the value of leverage now. Fear still works, but leverage lasts longer. Information, access, and timing matter more than brute force. He's willing to let enemies think they're winning if it gives him a better position later. This patience surprises people. They expect the old Tommy, the one who reacts fast and hits hard. Instead, they get silence, and silence in this world is often a warning before disaster. Another reason this expansion is different is because Tommy has nothing left to lose. The people he loved are gone. The past is burned. That makes him focused in a way that's hard to stop. He isn't protecting a dream anymore. He's building something final. Something that can't be taken from him easily. That level of determination makes him unpredictable, even to those who think they know him. Power Legacy Season 1 highlights this change through small decisions: who he spares, who he ignores, and when he chooses not to act. These moments show a man who has learned restraint, even when violence would be easier. That restraint creates tension because it can break at any moment, and when it does, the impact will be greater than ever. New York doesn't see this version of Tommy coming. It remembers a wild soldier, not a quiet strategist. That mistake could cost the city everything, because when experience meets opportunity, the result isn't survival, it's domination. And Tommy Egan didn't return to New York to test himself. He returned because he believes this time the city won't just fear him, it will belong to him. In New York, no one stands alone for long. Power is built through people, and people are never fully trusted. Tommy Egan knows this rule better than most. As he moves deeper into the city in Power Legacy Season 1, every face around him falls into one of three categories: ally, enemy, or unknown. And the unknown ones are always the most dangerous. Some allies come from the past, old soldiers who survived the wars, men and women who remember what it meant to work under real power. These people don't just follow Tommy because of fear, they follow him because they believe in results. They've seen him win battles that should have killed him. They know his word carries weight. But time changes loyalty. Years of silence can turn respect into doubt. Tommy must prove himself again, even to those who once stood beside him. Then there are the new allies. These are the players who didn't grow up with Tommy's legend but respect strength when they see it. They are cautious, quiet, and strategic. They don't rush into partnerships. They watch first. These people don't care about history, they care about advantage. For Tommy, winning them over means showing control instead of violence. One wrong move, and they'll turn on him without warning. Enemies are easier to spot, but only at first. Some make their hatred clear. They see Tommy as a threat to their control and want him gone quickly. Others hide behind smiles and polite words, waiting for the right moment to strike. These enemies believe New York has moved on. They think Tommy belongs to another era, and because of that belief, they underestimate him. That mistake could cost them everything. The most dangerous figures, however, are the ones in between. People who switch sides when it benefits them. People who sell information to everyone while pretending loyalty to no one. These characters don't want power, they want survival. And they survive by feeding chaos quietly. Tommy understands that these people can destroy an empire faster than open enemies.